is wasting time. The whole Caribbean gone blind. If we don't know from where we come in, then we can't plan where we going. That's why some want to be communists, brother, some want to be socialists, and one set a religion to add to the foolishness. Look, a man who don't know his history can't form no unity. How could a man who don't know his roots form his own ideology? Like one race from the same place that make the same trip on the same ship. So we must push one common intention. It's for a better life in the region, for we women and we children. That must be the ambition of the Caribbean man, the Caribbean man, the Caribbean man. The Federation done dead and Paris. Try with a federation, the whole thing end in confusion. CARICOM and then CARIFTA, but somehow a spelling disaster. Mr. West Indian politician, I mean you went to a big institution, and how come you can't unite 7 million? When a West Indian unity, I know it's very easy. If you only rap to your people and tell them like me, them is one race, the Caribbean man, from the same place, the Caribbean man, that make the same trip, the Caribbean man, on the same ship, the Caribbean man. So we must push one common intention. It's for a better life in the region, for we women and we children. That must be the ambition of the Caribbean man, the Caribbean man, the Caribbean man. You say that the Federation was imported quite from England, and you're going and form a CARIFTA with a true West Indian flavor. But since CARIFTA started running, morning, noon and night all are hearing. It's just money speech, them Prime Minister giving. But I say no set of money could form a unity. First of all, your people need their identity like one race, from the same place, that make the same trip, on the same ship. So we must push one common intention. It's for a better life in the region, for we women and we children. That must be the ambition of the Caribbean man, the Caribbean man, the Caribbean man. CARICOM is wasting time. The whole Caribbean gone blind. If we don't know from where we come in, then we can't plan where we go in. That's why some want to be communists, brother, some want to be...
Yes, indeed. Of course, a pleasant good night to all and sundry. It is the Wednesday edition of the Corridor Transformation. Your host, LENNOX, of course, in the background, but nonetheless, making things happen. And as you see, of course, we are on. And we are going to have a bumper program tonight as we continue, of course, to treat with the issues of the day. Of course, we were incomplete last night. And, of course, one of the questions that one must ask is whether or not the PNM under Keith Christopher Rowley has collapsed. I think that is a fair question that must be asked now, having regard to the multiple and monolithic and diversified amount of poor policies, poor policy selection and implementation, mismanagement, and rank and unadulterated undermining of important and nonetheless constitutionally protected, supposed to be, institutions in this country. All of those we will explore tonight. Of course, we will not complete or cannot complete a program without having your calls. So, of course, call us at 337 6940, 339 6940, as we, of course, treat with the issues and invite you to make your comments. Have a wonderful program tonight because I intend to enjoy myself even though in the background.
Life in the region for the woman and their children. That must be the ambition of the Caribbean man, the Caribbean man, the Caribbean man.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. A pleasant good night to all and sundry. Once again, this is, the Corridor Transformation. Your host, LENNOX Smith, in the background, but nonetheless, of course, doing what the duty demands, what the duty imposes, what duty requires, recommends, and of course, as your humble servants, or put another way, as a humble servant to duty, nationalism, patriotism, commitment to the rule of law, and the making certain that those who have been given the awesome responsibility, awesome here is used in a high degree of specificity, meaning that one expects that our democracy will not only be preserved, but the equitable distribution of the resources of the country, of course, consistent with the abilities of various members of the society who may have sacrificed one way or another, and of course what the society recognizes as important or less important as the case may be, but nonetheless all coming together to, of course, effect what we call Trinidad and Tobago and therefore a society. What do I mean? I simply mean that the garbage cleaner, that the man who is working on the dump, the janitor, the person who, of course, is doing office chores, cleaning, etc. Well, I want to tell you that he is as equally important as the doctor, the lawyer, the judge, who, of course, will require persons like these in order for him or her to function. Have you ever thought of that? Well, of course, I have brought that to your attention. So, in other words, what we are saying is that the division of labor is such, but that does not take away the ability of one, irregardless of one's station in life or position, as far as one's vocation is concerned, to be discriminated against, or feel, worse yet, feel discriminated against. And therefore, while of course in the real world we know that discrimination exists, but thank God for the UNC, because of course the Equal Opportunities Commission, while one would have to accept that there are persons who may not be able to access the resolutions, perspective and the resolution portfolio that such an institution is intended to provide to persons who feel discriminated against. And of course, let us not waste time. We know that one has to be practical. The janitor or the office cleaner or the person who is working for a menial salary and earning out a living and having, of course, to see about a family and, of course, provide all of the necessities that every single family, whether you are middle class, upper class, in between or lower class or in rank and unadulterated poverty, if you want to call it that. Everybody has their role and responsibility, and must, of course, subscribe to what is fundamental to every human being, whether individually or as a collective. In this case, of course, the smallest unit in the society, which is the family. Of course, you subdivide that, and you will get, of course, the individuals. So individuals make up families, families make up, of course, neighborhoods, neighborhood makes up communities and villages, and the accumulation of villages, and in our case, of course, for objective and for practical reasons, we have regional corporations, and we also have, of course, municipalities, and all of them cumulatively, inclusive of the Tobago House of Assembly, make up the society or the country called Trinidad and Tobago. So I thought it was important, of course, to be as practical. But what are the needs of every human being? Well, food, shelter, clothing, and these days entertainment. Let me repeat. Food, shelter, clothing, and these days entertainment. A crucial part of the makeup and life that is to be enjoyed or to be pursued by every single human being, whether they are in a family or whether they have eventually decided to be a loner or a nomad, as the case may be, moving from place to place. The fact of the matter is that you cannot get away from the fact that food, shelter, clothing, and these days, as I said, entertainment is, of course, a crucial makeup and a necessity of every single human being. Those are the fundamental of living of every human being. Of course, we are a gregarious creature, a gregarious animal, human beings, that is. That is to say that they live in groups and therefore thus a society. A society, of course, is a collective of human beings, as distinct and apart from, let's say, psychology, which of course deals with the individual and his or her mental state. But of course, society is composed of several individuals interacting with each other. Whether you are a social scientist or you subscribe to the different categories of social groupings, or whether they be some call them having to depend on each other, and therefore they interact with each other, and some describe the society in some instances as similar to the body, where of course it is comprised of different parts, whether it be the extremities, whether it be the torso or the main frame, the body part, the chest and the belly, if you want to call it that. And then of course you have other parts of the body that has independent but significant and contributory functions to making sure that the body functions. These kinds of scientists in the social realm are called, of course, functionalist sociologists, functionalists. They, of course, see the society as a body, a human body, and therefore all its component parts interact with each other. And thus, of course, the functionalist ideology. But enough of that. Last night, of course, we were looking at the whole question of and let me say that the lines is already open. Remember, we are going for just 1 hour, so I suspect that people must be able to make their contribution within that stipulated period. And if you don't, well, of course, you have tomorrow on the ground report, and then, of course, tomorrow night on the corridor again. But last night, of course, we were looking at external factors, because, you see, it is important to understand the place that Trinidad and Tobago is in. And in many instances, due to no fault of ours as a society, as a country. And on the other hand, depending on how we treat with those external nuances or those external issues, we can, of course, indict. We can express our deep concern as to the decision-making processes within in response to those external factors. I do not believe for one moment, and I don't think anybody in their right mind will, of course, accept the fact that we must be totally independent in terms of looking inwards, like Trump would say. He wants to make America great again. But of course, he says that within the recognition that the United States is not a law unto itself, one, and cannot be the provider of all of what it needs without the support of other countries. And thus, of course, they have allies, and they have, of course, persons who they have good relations with. And so, just as Trinidad and Tobago, they have, of course, ambassadors and representatives in various countries of the world in order to pursue ostensibly their interests, and vice versa. The other countries will have emissaries or representatives in the context of the Commonwealth. They are called, of course, high commissioners, and outside of the Commonwealth, they are called ambassadors. But all of them can be given the generic term emissaries, representatives of their respective governments in other countries, but of course are there to do what? To seek the interests of their respective homeland or home country. But it is not passing strange that we have a government sitting in Trinidad and Tobago where one can say that every single thing that they have decided to do ostensibly in the interest of Trinidad and Tobago, recognizing that, and from time to time will espouse that, but their conduct and their policies and programs and what they roll out invariably, and I challenge anyone to tell me otherwise, invariably turns out to be pernicious to or inimical to the interests of Trinidad and Tobago, and therefore the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. Name any one of them. You want to say that, if you are sycophant, you want to say that they brought those two boats for the sea bridge. Well, I want to tell you, we could have done without them if Rowley did not send back Bay Ferries. Yes, Bay Ferries, the maintenance crew from Canada. And he himself later admitted that that was a fundamental mistake. So, Bay Ferries was supposed to be maintaining the Spirit and the Express so that they would have lasted a little longer. They having, of course, served Tobago and Trinidad, and therefore the Sea Bridge throughout the 5 years of the preceded Kamla Prasad Bisesa UNC administration. And Rowley simply dismantled the maintenance portfolio, the maintenance schedule of those boats. And I don't have to tell you the disaster that it created for Tobago. So to tell us that they brought two boats, we must go back as to the fact that they were unnecessary. And I say unnecessary from the perspective that they cost us $1 billion that we could have saved by simply maintaining the existing ferries that were met by Rowley, or put another way, left by Kamla Prasad Bisesa and the UNC. That's not waste time. So those two boats actually are poison ivy from the commencement. But let's go straight, of course, to your comments. It is important that you make your contribution. Let us go straight there. A pleasant good night to welcome. Yes, and good night. Welcome.
Yes, hello, good night.
Good night. Good night. Welcome.
Um, it's almost 9 o'clock. People ain't calling.
Well, you know how
I
it
say
is.
I will call.
Yeah, well, I started late as well, so I know that I have to compensate. But go ahead. I mean, whether you call now, you call later, whether nobody calls, it doesn't matter. We have a show to, of course, educate and to excite the population.
Yes, and your song and real clear and nice. We
Thank you
might
very
have to
much.
keep it that way right through
Yes, boy. Yes,
for
boy.
us to
Yes.
have a show.
I find a way. I find a way. I find a way. So, thank you for
Praise
your
God.
interest. Yes.
Well, what I want to talk about tonight is
Yeah.
this situation we reach in here now where they want to tax small business people. And I heard them mentioning about doubles people and the nuts man. Well, it's not only them, you know. It will have them people all on the road, all over the place they will attack.
Yeah.
Not so, Lennox?
Oh yes. Oh yes. And I
Who's
want to.
selling the little fruits and things.
And just in case for information purposes, there is a building called Iqua in Barataria.
Yes, I know it.
That's right. Well, 3 floors have been rented by the Ministry of Finance. The building owned by the relatives of Alwari, another one.
Yes.
Yes. And of course, it is there where they are training persons to be connected to the revenue authority, property tax, etc. And I think it's from there they are going to be unleashing their tax on the ordinary person who themselves are struggling, and created, of course, that struggle created by Rowley himself and his government by not being able to bring in foreign investment or create a diversification agenda that will, of course, provide people with revenues and resources in order to survive in this society. But go ahead, I thought I should make that intervention.
Right. So, I like to take in front facts.
Yes.
To notify the citizens of this country. And let me tell you people something in this Trinidad and Tobago. You see, when I come here and I say something and I give you all a little information in advance, right? Try and don't take on foolish people. Who could research it. And who hear what I say, try and wait a little and you will find out when other people come with the information. Keep our time to study wicked people and follow wickedness. You hear what it is I'm telling you all? Anyhow, Lennox,
Yes.
the brotherhood of wrongdoers, that is what they do. The brotherhood of wrongdoers, right, is the brotherhood mafia by the Cubans and the Venezuelans. I'm saying that again. In Cuba, that is what they do, the people. When they become communists, everybody had to pay tax. If people don't know, in Cuba, people who have a saloon in their home, you're selling food in front of your door, fruits, vegetables, because that is how Cuba is. Everybody hustling something. You have to pay the government tax. Right? So we're here involved with these mafia people. Now remember, he said, so we don't have to afraid to say it. And for somehow, we real dunce inside of here. We don't know what's going on in the region and how people just talk to these mafia people, Because Rowley have we done. And when somebody like me come to talk about this, you see them UNC sycophant, they're waiting for Camilla to talk. They're waiting for what he named to talk, Wade Mark. But I know they're afraid to talk. Right? So we, on we own, and we had to stand up and go out there. We had to stand up to them people who they put in to come to give it some kind of paper to tax we. I'm talking to the Indian business people because all your name calling first with the doubles. because all of them sell the street food and they're watching how all they're making money. Right? Stand up to them. You don't want no paper. Because you see them people were selling on the road. I will use Charlotte Street. They ain't going for that, you know. Or they don't run up front and take documents from these people where they're sending out to talk to all you. And then after, the thing, they will say, you know, the people decide to pay and make problem. You hear what it is I'm saying? We have to stand up. We have to stand up. Because he following what his mafia friend and them tell him. And we had to put water in our mouth. We had to research and learn about Cuba. Cuban people get so poor because and we don't want to get no sanctions. We don't want no embargo because we don't live in catching retail to live. If that come and people will go mad inside of here. Right? So we must stand up to this. We have to stand up to it. And do not accept this foolishness he coming with. Okay, Lennox.
Yes,
Let me give
indeed.
somebody else a chance.
Yes, thank you very much for that intervention, early intervention. Of course, we have another one on the other line that I will. Oh no, it is something not what I thought it was, but the phone is ringing. Of course, so don't forget the number to call 337-6940, 337-6940. Ignore, of course, the other number for the time being. That is for a different purpose. Anyway, let's go straight to the line once again. Pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor. Good night. Welcome to the corridor. Yes, indeed. What's the issue here? Let's go again. Pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor.
Good night, Lennox. How are you?
I'm fine. And yourself?
I'm doing okay. But I was listening to Miss Arima speak, and talking about the taxes that are coming.
Yes.
And she's very right. Taxes are around the corner, and the UNC is having all these pre-budget town hall meetings or community meetings, and everybody's discussing it. But all hell will break loose when that budget gets passed. And I'll tell you, this is a laughing because it's like this is. You ever see that movie Groundhog Day where every day is the same thing, you live the same thing every day, and it never stops? Well, in Trinidad, it's like that. Every day is Monday. But for some people, every day it's Saturday or Sunday. The thing is, nobody takes a stand against this government. And the Prime Minister gets away with speaking to us in such a rude manner. So he speaks to us like we are illiterate. And I say this because Mala Dukaran, who is an economist, and she's very bright, actually. I follow her on X and other platforms.
Okay.
And I've been following her for years now. And she made a comment, and she said, in the past, 15 years or 5, I forget how many years now, not even 15, but this country has lost over, I forget, like 25 or 50 billion US dollars, that it's untraceable, that nobody knows where that money goes. And most of it is just spread out, and it's hard. Some of it involves foreign exchange because a lot of the money leaves this country, and people were saying because of the direct flights to Panama, something happened. That money is just coming out of this country. It's never being reinvested, and you wonder why we live in such slummy kind of areas. Why property tax now is so random. We live in communities where you have people living in shacks, and next to them is a big housing development where each housing goes for $1.5 million in a poor neighborhood or community like Cunupia. If it was in Trin City, one of those bigger cities where millionaires do live, because Trin City has those areas, I would understand. But when you bring that kind of drastic poverty with rich housing, How do you assess property tax? You just go and you say, oh, you live in a galvanized house. Well, you don't have a bathroom, you don't have a kitchen, you have a toilet outside. That is so stupid. I've never heard of anybody doing an assessment like that. First world countries, what they do is they base it on what you have in your community. Do you have low crime in your community? Do you have good schools in your community? Do you have running water? Do you have a good sewage system? Does garbage get picked up and recycled? Do you have community centers? Do you have areas where children can play and be safe? Do you have good sidewalks? Are all the housing zoned? Are there anybody doing anything illegal in your community that's violating zoning laws? None of those apply in Trinidad. None, across the board. And I say that because I've been all over Trinidad. And I lived a long time abroad, and I traveled. I'm not putting anybody down. But our prime minister's entire family lives abroad. They live it. They love their community. They walk on the street. They have coffee at night. You have to dodge bullets at night in this country. This is a fallacy of what this man is doing to us. And people are really struggling. I see it. People don't have $5. And let me tell you, I'll give you an example of how bad it is in this country. You know the port, right? They get new equipment, right? They're training all these port workers on the cargoes, right? On the containers. Do you know how much that equipment came from a foreign country? And they have to be trained on those equipment. Do you know how much those guys get paid an hour? This is what someone said to me.
Well,
so
I'm glad that you
$85 an hour.
$85. Okay, go ahead.
To operate in a machine, where in America or in first world countries you get paid $125, $150. These guys making $12 US an hour when the minimum wage in America is $15. You tell me, and you want a man to put 100%? Or a woman? Come on, all this money going out this country, and our children have to go to school with rats and bats in the ceiling? I give up. Let me tell you, when this election comes around, people will riot. And when this budget passes, if people are very complacent and quiet, because we know they're going to throw money at everybody. They're going to start patching up the road, doing the fixing, and then we're going to be struggling. After they win the election, there'll be more struggle again, and then the cycle starts over again. They go throw money, election coming. Meanwhile, the country is not improving. We have to go without water and LENNOX Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Yes,
which,
500,000 persons, 500,000
Can you believe that? Where in the world is this happening? Bangladesh, India, Africa, parts of Africa. I see even in I don't know if it was Burkina Faso or maybe Congo. I forget what you know what country it was. If you do, it's the country where they have a military leader, and now he's buying all this stuff for the country, and he kicked the French out. Yes. And he's trying to help. Yeah, he's buying vehicles for the hospitals. He bought himself a cheap Jeep because he said our country needs more than what I can get. I don't deserve it. I thought I was very humble. Our prime minister drives the most expensive cars. Members of parliament here show off their money. Yeah, what did Robert Tamar said? 400 brand new vehicles came in.
Yeah, without
400 brand new vehicles. All right, I've taken a long time.
Yes,
but I wanted to thank you, and I'm just so sad with the leadership we have. But I don't know, LENNOX. Okay, thank you.
Yes, indeed. Well, thank you very much for that intervention, because part of tonight's discussion is whether or not the PNM has collapsed. Of course, it has dug deep, I should say, below the bottom of the barrel to, of course, get talent that clearly has not been able to conform to what is required and the expectations of the population. When you look at the performance of Dr. Rowley as Prime Minister, when you look at the performance of people such as Stuart Young, and of course people such as Hines, and then you have Gonzalez, who of course incidentally, when he introduced him as the newly found minister with responsibility for public utilities, he told us that he was looking for a man who knew nothing and was distant and away and aloft of the utilities. And of course, on that occasion, he was referencing WASA, but it appears that is every damn thing as far as what we know to be utilities. He seemed to be ignorant of, and therefore it further questions Dr. Rowley's ability to choose persons the right fit for the task before us, because we have seen the Minister of National Security, he's still called the Minister of National Security, I'm talking about Hines, I mean, only superficially, only nebulously, only what I consider to be cognitively and maybe amorphously, because I posed a question this morning to Andy, and I asked him a very simple question, but has profound repercussions and or meaning, and that is, if in any country you go and you are either introduced or you are told or engage in discussion about a Minister of National Security, what is the department that you will most associate such a portfolio or such a person with in the portfolio that he or she possesses as Minister of National Security? And of course, the unanimous is not that it was partial. It was not that it was a decision or a response that one could consider to be a majority decision. No, it was unanimous. Every single person said that you would associate a Minister of National Security automatically with the police and or the army. But the police and army, you will, if a person has the portfolio of Minister of National Security in any country, you check it out, you would see that the police and the army are the two things that will come immediately to mind, or almost automatically, almost spontaneously, without having to think. Well, we have a situation in Trinidad and Tobago where the man who was deployed, who was hired to assist the Minister of National Security, Hines, was given the portfolio relating to the police. You know what I say, people? So effectively, one can say from that gesture, that configuration that Dr. Rowley concocted, as he normally would, without, of course, any kind of serious thought, we now know he has made too many faux pas not to not know that he have effectively dismissed Fitzgerald Hines. But yet still, Fitzgerald Hines is in that ministry, engaged, of course, and given the what I consider to be the attenuated portfolio of in other areas, and not the police as a Minister of National Security. He's still a cabinet minister. I suppose that was done because of old-time relations, I suppose, and the warp loyalty, or should I say the undivided loyalty that Hines has to him, merely because, of course, he sees Rowley in the office of Prime Minister. For him, Hines, as an opportunity to escalate. Only lucky Hines didn't get senior counsel recognition too, only lucky. But clearly, we see that Rowley has at least a modicum, a minuscule, a infinitesimal amount of conscience, because he knows that the entire government would have been a laughing stock if Hines was given silk, if Hines was given senior counsel status. So what he did, to avoid total and absolute and rendering ridiculous and rendering null and void and of no effect, and rendering the issuance of a senior counsel to the point of ridiculousness and ad nauseum, sickening, he stopped at Al-Rari, who himself is not deserving. So you stop at Al-Rari. I am not questioning, of course, the other beneficiary of silk. I'm talking about the coal pot and bicycle man, except, of course, to say that he sounded, and to me, there is a lingering dunderheadedness surrounding this man, and it appears that it is idiosyncratic or typical of people who associate themselves with a Rowley government. Let's go to the lines. A pleasant good night.
Yes, once again, Lennox.
Yes.
I come in pieces. People
Yes.
ain't calling.
No problem. No
But
problem.
what I
You
want
go. Those
to
are
tell
the
you,
people you call, man.
lifetime,
Yes.
the last time I checked it was 119.
Okay.
Lennox are always not enough. The people now coming on.
All right. I'll see
Something
what
I
I
want
can
to say again.
Yes, go ahead.
Well, I hear somebody say on a talk show, a caller,
Yes.
so I will use the word, it is alleged.
Okay.
You know, people does know thing because they're working there, or they know somebody working in this ministry and so and so.
Yes.
The person said
you call them
that
whistleblowers
the
these
Coast
days.
Guard don't really have any ammunitions, powerful ammunition to guard the country, to protect the country.
All right.
That is astounding. I don't know what to say yet. That disturbing, right? Lennox, what do you think about that?
Well, it's
You
not,
believe that is true?
It's not surprising, because if the government had about a dozen boats, ships designed to protect our coastal areas and to, of course, sight and intercept contraband and other what I consider to be harmful developments taking place utilizing the waters around us, and you didn't even have money for gas, or you didn't care to put fuel in these vessels.
Diesel.
Then it means that it is not far-fetched if they ignored the appropriate supplying of these members of the defense force, whether it be the army, whether it be the Coast Guard, etc., the Air Guard and so on, with ammunition. Because if you can't give them equipment to protect our borders, then of course they would want arms and ammunition as well to execute their duty, and that has not happened. So it is not far-fetched. To answer your question directly, I am not surprised, and that kind of situation can be related or transferred to every nook and cranny of government life and services and institutions in this country.
What I want to say,
go ahead.
Due to this situation in the region with next door and so,
I know it's there where you're going, so go ahead.
We can't just talk it and laugh it and everybody talk. I just watch how other countries, how the opposition in the region, right, acting out concerning certain issues in the region right now. And up to now, I ain't hear this opposition say anything about this situation here right now. I wonder if people really know what's going on and what could really take place.
Well, while I
ain't hearing people talking here. They know what's really going on here.
It's not fair to say that, because I will play excerpts of it probably tomorrow morning or tomorrow night
not
Gary.
You. I ain't talking about you.
Of Gary Griffith. I'm talking. He's part of the opposition.
Callers.
Oh, callers. Oh, callers. I thought. Other people. Oh, I thought you mean official opposition.
I'm talking about the opposition too. I ain't hearing them talking. If a country in a situation like this, and you have a government that don't care, I find the opposition should talk out and ask for some kind of help. They have that right.
Well, I'm not really, really convinced that that is not so, because here we had the situation with Delcy Rodriguez, for example, and all of the other things associated. We had the situation, of course, with Jandal. That's the name of the guy. Recently, and that's very recent. We had the situation, of course, with the threat to Trinidad and Tobago in terms of the influx of migrants from Venezuela. For whatever reason, and of course we have a position by the opposition, the official opposition on Maduro.
You're just talking, Lennox. You talking again. You're just talking. I say it have solutions. Look, these people don't want people in the country, right?
Well,
this
yeah,
is
but
why
what
they're so
the opposition can do
that was held on the 31st of July.
Right.
That's
what the opposition could do, you tell me what the opposition could have done in those circumstances.
They don't want these people in the country. This is why they're fighting for resolution. And the stance that we took, right, by not going, it upset things. The other countries who didn't vote,
right, Mr. Rima, I am being very specific.
And up to now, I hear the opposition talk, the leading opposition. I hear them fighting on that issue. They ain't saying nothing.
All right, I agree with you with that.
They even put the country in jeopardy.
Right, I agree with you with that.
With
I have not heard as well.
Going on, this is where they're supposed to push.
Right.
And embarrass this man.
Right,
Just
but
as
I'm
how
saying
they
to
push
you,
and embarrass him with this situation. This thing where they wanted this man from India to buy the refinery.
Right.
With a voice.
They spoke out on...
This is strategy.
Yes.
With a strategy.
Right, so I'm saying that where they could influence and make input, practical input to lead us on the right path, they were able to do so, because Jandal is as a consequence of the intervention of the opposition. But in the case of OAS, they simply do not have any locus standi, any legal authority.
They have to go. I say they could have talked inside here about.
And I agree with that. I acknowledge that.
The country know. You could have people don't know anything what took place on the 31st.
Right.
With this stance that this country took, let the people know.
Yeah, but don't mix up yourself, because you're talking about solution.
No, I am mixing up. I'm talking about that position that we took.
Yeah.
And as an opposition, I ain't hear them say a word.
We agreed on that. I agree with you on that. But you went on to talk about solution.
Let me give somebody else
all right, okay.
I'm glad to.
All right, okay then. All right. So people, there are two things here that I gleaned from what the point she was making. One, on the one hand, that you look for solutions. And I was making the point that the opposition hands are tied as far as OAS is concerned. They have no local standard, they have no legal authority there. But certainly, with respect to Jandal, they could talk out, and they have spoken, and as a consequence, that situation has been remedied, whether temporary or otherwise. So it is in that context. So to and fro, you be as practical as possible. And of course, what the opposition can do, we are seeing that they have. I agree with her that we have not heard about that meeting in the OAS, which I think should be brought to the attention of the population, as we have done it. But you are aware, but the opposition has a duty, and I have no doubt in my mind now that they have heard it from us, even they will, of course, make some kind of statement on the matter. That being as it may, pleasant good night to welcome to the corridor.
Lennox, it's me again.
Yes.
Lennox, I wanted to say something. What can the opposition say, really? Honestly, because the Prime Minister is the one who's doing all the talking. I mean, the opposition has brought a lot of relevant facts to the forefront. They did say that he didn't reveal his numbers. What are the numbers for the voting in Venezuela? And it's been days now, and nothing, weeks.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, they have been talking. They have been talking where they believe it is relevant. I think the only area that one can say that they may have been silent or may not be aware of is that vote um, in the OAS that Trinidad and Tobago didn't even attend that particular meeting because it was so crucial, unrelated to that voting
Oh,
outcome
I
in
think,
Venezuela.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think Trinidad and Tobago, I think with the OAS knows exactly what's going on, but they are very sensitive to what's happening because Venezuela does have a strong military, and they do have Russia on their side and China.
Yeah.
And if a war were to break out and there were to be some kind of retaliation within South America, I mean, I think it would become a very fragile situation in the whole Caribbean. We don't want to be another Middle East where there's a war going on. You know, we want to be the Caribbean, but that's what they're saying. We're going to be the next Middle East because of Guyana, but all that oil. But what I think is happening here is that, you see, our problem here in our community in Little Trinidad is very fixable. But we have poor leadership, and we've had them for so long. Since we got independence, the PNM has faltered, and they have never lifted us up or gotten us where we need to go, like Singapore. We could use Singapore because they were a former British colony and no oil and gas. They just had a port. And everybody who came to Singapore to live were very poor people. They weren't very highly educated, but they had a guy with a vision who could lead the country. He said everybody should speak English in their country, proper English, learn how to write English, because that's going to be our competition. And he's right. But what we do, Prime Minister, all Dr. Williams did a lot of times, he gave we schools and other stuff, but he wanted to just become a super powerful man, and so he rigged every election. And it's pretty, and how he rigged it, he gave out a lot of freebies. He made promises to people. He gave jobs to people who voted for him. He kept a tight circle of people around him, very secretive. And he always had the big bad brigade or the big ass brigade of women with big butts dancing in front of the stage every time he made a speech. And so he filled our heads with just this nonsensical view of ourselves. Even Ian Allen makes fun of our people and joke about us. And it's a joke to people. I just, every week is a religious holiday in this country. We don't have a full work week in this country. And the Prime Minister says that we are a free market, we are capitalists, we love money. But only a few people get the chance to love money in this country because the rest of the people poor. We talk about equity, equality, and all these things, right? But it's not really here. And I say that because, Lennox, the divide in wealth is so astronomical, it's mind-boggling.
Yes.
And that's totally fine with the Prime Minister. And he wants to tax poor people. We are being taxed for everything the rich people bring in, all the imports. They make all the money because the ports are not even, I don't think they pay a big chunk at all, if you ask me. I think a lot of them have a free ride because they have big contracts with the government anyway. So it's like they're getting a free ride all around. And there's no disclosure. You have to be scared to talk because they'll cut you off or they'll sue you for defamation because there's no right to no speedy trial in this country. And the Constitution is written in such a way that it almost conflicts itself. It's contradictory. Because you have to always go back to the old colonial days. And that's ridiculous. I say this because, 2024, come on, Lennox. And we're still waiting for water. We're still waiting for pipe-borne water when water is going to be scarce again and when people will never have it. So what I'm saying is this. I feel like with the UNC, I'm telling you the truth, with all her games and bringing in Gary Griffith and then Vassan Barrett, who's very smart. I just feel like it's like same old players mixing up again, same people. And I just don't think anything will change. I think what's going to happen if the PNM win this election, it wouldn't be because people voted because they support the UNC. They just want to vote the PNM out. And if they're willing to do that, then change probably will come because we do have the power in the end. Because if everybody start to get on the streets out there and start rioting, you'll see how quick change will happen. And Maduro probably wouldn't last. I just want to say this last thing. CIA probably watching him. He doesn't have very long to last. All those crooked leaders always end up, running out, jumping on a plane and flying away.
Yeah, you're quite right, and that is an option. It is a scenario. The difficulty here for me,
but check this out,
is that the man is so recalcitrant. The man is so indurate. He is so determined to stay in power. We've seen him cracking down on people, and he knows very well, as was endorsed by the endorsement of Russia and China and Iran, and therefore he feels emboldened to sacrifice his people. No matter how many of them would have escaped, or should I say leave Venezuela and destabilize surrounding countries, whether it's Colombia, whether it be Paraguay, Uruguay, Brazil, etc. Yeah, he is a dictator.
He's controlling the military.
Yeah, the man is saturated with power, and he's obsessed with power. But as you're quite right, he cannot exist, particularly if the army would have taken a different position from him, because that is the only thing that is propping him up, as well as the judiciary to some extent. But as soon as that is moved from under his influence, I expect that a rapidity of decline in terms of his fortunes, and he may well, of course, find as I think Idi Amin did, find himself in another country that would accommodate him to live the rest of his life. Unfortunately, not paying the penalty that he ought to, as Rowley will have to, when he would have been demitted from office by the people, simply because of the evil that he has perpetrated policy-wise, etc.
My prediction is that the PNM will lose the next election because people will just vote him out. They don't care. They just want him out.
Oh yes. That is part of it.
But the other thing, and that's what you have to tell people. Just vote him out. Vote him out.
All right.
But wait, I wanted to make one
more point. Go ahead.
Minister, when he went to the United Nations a few years ago, right? He spent a lot of time talking about the sanctions with Cuba and how the United States should lift those sanctions and supporting Cuba. And then he was even in support of Venezuela, saying that that Venezuela the sanctions should be lifted, that the oil is important, that and I know Venezuela was very happy when the Prime Minister spoke, because at their table the camera focused on them and they were all really jumping up for joy that the Prime Minister supported them. And now he's saying he's very quiet. He's staying very quiet.
Oh yes, and Young is speaking from both sides of his mouth. In one article, he's saying that what is happening there will not affect, and then on the other hand, he's saying that it will affect, of course, what is happening here.
Exactly.
I suspect that
he should have spoken to us in Spanish, because the Prime Minister said he knows so much Spanish.
At least I wouldn't understand the nonsense that he's talking, because of course I simply don't understand that kind of what I consider to be square peg and round hole logic. I mean, it simply doesn't make sense.
We are laughing.
Yeah.
We're laughing and we're joking, but this man is controlling a lot of money.
Yes, of course.
These people are playing with the future of the next generation in Trinidad, and we're laughing.
They have it literally in their hands, the future generations. And I trust that Generation Z that has been coined in as far as Kenya will arrive in Trinidad and Tobago. You see this 6 and 7 and 8 waste of time, young people. Convert that energy, that concentration, that intention, that motivation to what is happening to your country, and the possibility that you may not have a Trinidad and Tobago to live in, when most of us who are now in our 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s have gone, and you are there, because most of them who are engaged are below the age of 30. And what will it be for you? What your future will be like if you don't take action now that you are over, now that you are 18 and over? Come on,
Yeah, because
young
and
people.
only now the Minister of Youth Development and a bunch of them are scrambling to do something. You know, they're like, oh my God, we better do
Yeah, that's
something. It is a
superficial,
mental disease. It is
superfluous
an
and public
illness. All of
relations.
these things.
Yeah,
I want to say
superficial,
there's a girl
superfluous
that
and
gets
public
on.
relations oriented. Yeah.
There's a girl that gets on YouTube. She's a young girl. I think it's on YouTube or maybe in one of those websites, one of those platforms. And she follows all the gangs in Trinidad. And let me tell you something. That little girl, man, she tells you everything about each gang and what they're planning and this is the move and this is what person trying to break out into music. It's all about the music scene actually, but it's all about gangs because these gangs are all connected to somehow movies, music, and drugs and guns.
Right,
And I was like,
and I am
what?
saying that
Especially this.
if it is well nurtured, if it is well guided, it can be part of the diversification agenda that we must of necessity engage in. But you need an
Yeah.
engaging government to
And there, yeah,
fashion and to mold and to direct for positive, as opposed to, of course, the deaths and mayhem that we are seeing on a daily basis in Trinidad
yes,
and Tobago,
yes.
consequential of an action that is indigenous, that is creative, that is born of Trinidad, but destructive in terms of its holistic unfolding and expression. And we have to face that fact. The government has that role and responsibility, but has abdicated their responsibility at this point in time.
Yeah, they are, and all we're gonna do now is focus on voting the PNM out. But when the
Yes, that
freebies
is
come,
one.
they're
That
gonna
is
be
a
giving out a
major.
lot.
That's the first stage of the resuscitation and the reclaiming of our society across the board.
I think they made enough money. Don't you think they took enough now? They should just leave some money for the rest
They
of the
will not,
country now.
because they want to pretend that they did not take. They want to hoodwink us that they did not take. They want to appear to be what I consider to be pristine and immaculate, and that their moral and ethical compass has not strayed from right and wrong, etc., when we know the opposite is the case.
Right, and they spent a lot of money. They gave money to all their friends who were lawyers, all their
That is
funders.
to
They
keep
gave them
themselves.
money.
But let
So
me
you know,
play
they spend more than enough.
Yeah, but
They gave everybody.
yeah,
So,
well, I think the next clip that I'm going to play will put things in perspective. All right?
yeah.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes. All right, let's put it in perspective.
This country has a corruption problem. A code, a mafiosi code. We keep each other's secret. It's only when you break rank, you go there and expose us, and for that, we're going to kill you politically. This country has a corruption problem. This country has a corruption problem. It's the code of the Cosa Nostra. This country has a corruption problem. As long as we stay together, we will survive together. And we agree not to breach the code of secrecy. This country has a corruption problem. This country has a corruption problem. It's a mafia. It's a mafia. It's a mafia. And under a code, a mafiosi code, we keep each other's secret. This country has a corruption problem.
So, people, of course, I think this puts it in perspective. We are clear in our minds that the PNM has morphed, has metamorphosized into a criminal enterprise led by a mafia, what I consider to be father, called Keith Christopher Rowley. Listen to him in full cry and in descriptive mood.
The code of secrecy as a brotherhood of wrongdoers. As a brotherhood of wrongdoers. This country has a corruption problem. This country has a corruption problem. If you want to save tomorrow, take action today. And if there's any government in the history of this country against which political action should be taken, it is the mafia. This country has a corruption problem. It is the mafia. As a brotherhood of wrongdoers. As a brotherhood of wrongdoers. Unacceptable conduct. A lot of unacceptable ways. As a brotherhood of wrongdoers. A lot of unacceptable corruption. A lot of tailoring things towards wrongdoing. As a brotherhood of wrongdoers. Right? That is not acceptable in the management of a country's affairs. But if I'm participating in wrongdoing, I can't really genuinely deal with you. This country has a corruption problem. As a brotherhood of wrongdoers. As a brotherhood of wrongdoers.
So-called greatest salesman has now turned out to be this country's most notorious and modern-day political Judas, who has shamelessly betrayed the hopes, dreams, and aspirations of our people, particularly our young people. That is what this band of sellout artists have done to our country, and they have crushed the NGC. So NGC is now saying for the first 6 months of 2020, they have lost over $316 million, and they will lose hundreds of more because of Dr. Keith Rowley, our modern day Judas in this country, brothers and sisters.
This country has a corruption problem. This country has a corruption problem.
We have to go back on this question of the shutdown of Petrotrin and why they sold this refinery or are planning to sell this refinery. I want to make it very clear. Sister Kamla Prasad Bisesa did not close down Petrotrin. There appears to be a tight connection between the Keith Rowley administration, Delcy Rodriguez, Wilma Ruperti, and the administration in Caracas, which is putting Trinidad and Tobago at risk. So we would like to get from Dr. Rowley whether Trafigura made a financial donation to the PNM General Election Campaign for 2020. These are questions that the public would like to know. And these are issues that the police commissioner should find some time to really summon Dr. Rowley to an audience so he can share with the police commissioner these crimes that he has committed against the country. He needs to have an audience. I am calling on the Commissioner of Police to have an audience with Dr. Keith Rowley and his gang so that they can explain this sellout of the country's natural resources.
4 days before we approach Good Friday, in observance of the crucifixion of Jesus Christ on the cross at Calvary, we, the citizens of this Twin Island Republic, are experiencing our own bout of physical, financial, and mental crucifixion as the new king, the new emperor, the new monarch, Rowley, choose this holy period to deliver hammer blows to the empty stomachs, on the empty stomachs of an already battered and bruised population. My brothers and sisters, through the unilateral and undemocratic imposition of explosive and draconian measures on both fuel and food products,
this country has a corruption problem. This country has a corruption problem.
Not only will there be a dramatic and exponential rise in fuel prices, but concomitantly, there will be a surge in the overall cost of living and a catastrophic decline in the people's standard of living and quality of life.
Can you relate to that, people? I thought I should regurgitate that in order to
was in office. You
impact on your memory. Listen carefully.
$140 to fill your 52 liters. Tida, today,
do you remember?
On April 19th,
can you remember?
Born by Keith Christopher Rowley.
Has the PNM collapsed?
$310.
This country has a corruption problem. This country has a corruption problem.
Taxi drivers, maxi taxi drivers, let me remind you, the government can find
these are just some of the hardships brought by this government
to give to foreigners
under a mafia type decision-making process. Let's go straight into the line.
In March of 2020.
I'll pause here and I will take this call. Pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor.
Lennox, good night.
Good night
to you and to everybody on the chat.
Yes.
Lennox,
good night. Hey.
Of course this country has a corruption problem. It was born and bred and raised under the PNM.
That's right, the mafia himself.
From O'Halloran.
Yes.
They are the connoisseurs of corruption, the Rosetta Stone of corruption.
That's right.
And it has continued under Keith Rowley's watch. And the biggest corruption of all is Balize House.
Oh yes. No doubt. And the biggest corrupter, the biggest mafia is Rowley himself.
Of course. He want to complain, talking and pointing fingers at people. And you know what is ironical? He talking about this thing now with the EBC. It is wrong for people to say their political affiliation. Why he didn't tell Massa that when Massa called him in 2015 and tell him he extended the time?
You know that is theatrics of Dr. Rowley. That is what they do. That's their playbook. We saw that, of course, with Vincent Nelson. He said in uncertain terms that listen, Vincent Nelson is there, turn state witness to do what? To put Kamala Persad-Bissessar and her cronies, I'm paraphrasing, but it's the same thing, in handcuff.
Yeah.
And that he referenced Pamasa, not knowing that in a criminal matter, criminal matter, he paid $10 million to Vincent Nelson to give a confession to set up Anand Ramlogan and Ramdeed. This man should be lost in jail. The handcuffs are not suitable. He should be behind bars and throw away the blasted keys. But go ahead, my friend.
And not that alone, Lennox. Imagine this is what Farris did, and they turn around and give that dance, made him a senior counsel.
Yeah, just imagine that. I mentioned it earlier, and the only reason why Fitzgerald Hines, the total dunderhead, the total indolent, the total incompetent, consummate, is because it would have looked too bad. That's why he didn't get one.
Imagine that. And Keith Scotland and this one Vera and all of them.
Yes. So I have no respect for them.
The worst of it was Farris.
Yeah.
And imagine he gave his sobers. He made his sobers a senior counsel. when I heard the next dunderhead, Kangaloo, was talking about Stuart Young and all his achievements, and so I was shocked. It's as though they padded that resume.
But all of that is designed. All of that is designed. Yeah, that's part of the playbook. All of that is designed to have you accept, to make it palatable, to make it tolerable, to suggest that somehow he is deserving, when in fact, by performance alone in the public sector, and all of the resume is when he became a minister. Fundamentally, nothing prior to when he was not a minister. So one of Rowley's major reason for giving silk to Stuart Young is that he negotiated in Venezuela. Well, Stuart Young is saying that all of that has today come to naught.
That is in sobers.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he had to, he had to reward his sobers.
Yeah, but today I wonder if he will take it back retroactively, because the sobers are saying that what is happening in Venezuela may well be another incident of the blightedness and the curse of the Rowley administration.
But Lennox, if you check back, if you just moonwalk a little bit back 2 days,
yes,
the same Stuart Young is saying it would not affect anything.
That's right. Yeah, they are that conflicted and convoluted. Yeah, these people are in cognitive decline, man.
Yeah, no, man. But I understand that he also intercepted, or however you want to say it, that the list of senior counsels. I heard it's either Israel Khan or somebody from the Law Association said it.
All right.
That those were the names that were not recommended.
Well, look at that. And some of them.
So not only did he intercept the merit list, he also intercepted this list. And then he want to talk about corruption. He want to talk about that man have no shame whatsoever. Like, come on, eat it.
Yes. And you have people like Nizam Mohammed saying, "I will never apply again," because you're making a jackass of the issuance of
senior counsel.
Senior counsel. Yeah, you're making it nebulous. You're making it insignificant. You're making it puerile. You're making it insignificant. And therefore, what the hell I want with that? If you're giving people like Stuart Young and I'm sure that Heinz Reach are shy from getting his. Undeserving.
Farris has not won a case as Attorney General.
Yeah.
And the only thing Farris could have done was witness tampering.
Yeah.
Farris had an incident with the car. All of that Farris
did,
and yet still you made this man this failure.
Criminal justice, yes. Perversion.
Imagine you moving from the Attorney General's office into local government.
Yeah. Still a cabinet minister.
And you made him a senior counsel.
It's a mafia. We are talking
Lennox
that right
is
now.
a shame and a disgrace.
Yes, it's a
Lennox,
mafia.
the sooner that they get out of this country,
will
be the better.
Of course.
When in 2015 he told Kamala and them, you and your ministers get out and make way so we can come there and fix the country. What has Keith Rowley fixed since he came in? 9 years now. Everybody, even PNMites, are asking, what have you done? What have you done for this country?
Everything he touches,
yes, is a failure.
Deteriorate,
Lennox,
exacerbate downwards.
I sent you a video with a lady. She's speaking about the OBI in this country. And the lady said it. It's Rowley Obia that is causing blood and mayhem in this country.
Man is blight. He's a curse. He's a criminal. And you want
because
to still stay there
on a platform and
say won't sleep comfortable.
That you went Lekoto to deal with whoever put you out of cabinet.
Get the hell out of office, Rowley. Get the hell out.
And the next deal that is going to fall through, if the opposition have the way, never mind people saying the opposition ain't doing that thing. Because it's they busting all the mark. You understand?
That's right.
They busting it. You understand? Is that deal with some, I think it's China, to build houses
yes,
away?
for the houses. Remember, one had collapsed. One has collapsed because of the Marlene McDonald intervention, because remember she was summarily removed when she was charged, and I suspect in fear of she spilling the beans, they decided of course to cover up their corrupt intent. Now that they have resurfaced with another entity that is questionable in itself, just as Jandal.
But you know Jandal have no shame.
Yeah.
You're a businessman. You're going to invest, but you're worried about what are the opposition of the country saying. And I would still maintain, Lennox,
Yes.
that letter that Keith Rowley read out, it was fake, like the emails.
I have no
and
doubt.
I said it. Yeah, I said it the day I heard it. I said it. We want to see that letter.
I have no doubt in my
Because
mind.
that letter sounded just like the fake emails.
Yes, I'm going to play him tomorrow night on
Yeah.
yeah.
Tomorrow's Thursday.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. He's dictating from that letter what of withdrawal, when in fact it's bogus in itself. Just as how Rowley himself is a bogus human being.
The way he talking about Jindal, you was sweat Jindal was one of Jesus' best disciples.
only he could sanctify that, which of course is in hell. He has sanctified people like Limo and people like Arwari and people like Robinson Regis and people like Daryl Smith and people like A.V. Jolin and people like, of course, the former head of the Police Service Commission. Yes.
Imagine these media houses. They like Kobo or the Lekoto Jambi in shame, talking about A&V was vindicated from the fake oil.
Yeah, because Young say so. Because Young say so.
Because they get 1,200 barrels of oil.
Yeah.
But
No, recently,
that was the fake oil.
recently, but they couldn't get that. They couldn't come close to that when the fake oil matter came to the fore, because they were given an opportunity to produce what Khan said was this 4 million a day because they drilled what 30 something wells, and they weren't able to produce quarter of that which they claim. Ratified by Khan at the time, and now what? 3, 4, 5 years later, they make a discovery, and somehow there's a nexus between these asses and them, saying that it is vindicated. Hold your tail.
That vindicates them from the fake oil.
Hold your tail, Young. You cannot insult people's intelligence like that.
But
You
Lennox,
nincompoop.
not only Stuart Young, the media.
Yeah, well,
the media is insulting our intelligence as well.
Yeah, how the hell that come as vindication? That is no different, Ms. Santa Cruz, than when, of course, the Minister of Finance tells us, having taken out over $1 billion from the Heritage and Celebration Fund, tell us that the Heritage and Celebration Fund has reverted to how they met it in 2015.
Yeah.
So what about the blasted billion that you took out? It means, therefore, whatever is there is short of $1 billion. But they come to use these semantics and these kind of what I consider to be convoluted and cacophonous babblings in order to hoodwink. No, none of us will be convinced,
Lennox,
until they get the hell out of office.
When they speak, when Rowley speaks, and Imbut, it's people like Tolman and Barataria, Bacteria,
Consummate
and all of them he's
fools.
talking to.
Consummate
not intelligent
fools.
people.
Consummate fools.
Not intelligent people out here.
Lack of analytical skills and common sense.
He know that they're going to fall for any nonsense that he say.
That's right.
He know that, and he know that they're going to pick it up and they're going to regurgitate it all over social media.
Parrot it like nincompoops of an extraordinary vintage.
Coprophagia, Lennox.
Coprophagia, yes. Eating their own filth. First they're that stupid. Yes, indeed.
Everything Rowley vomits out, they're eating it.
Yes,
everything.
Yes.
And then coming to talk about other people? No. Let me tell you something, Who was he saying, Lennox? Whom the gods wish to destroy, they first send them mad?
That's right, and they have gone insane.
We've seen a lot of that now.
Insane in
we see
grap.
a lot of that.
Yes, because they know blue lights and silver bracelet awaits.
Coming for them.
Inevitably.
Coming for them.
Inevitably.
Now, I keep hearing people talking about that they hope that Kamala charge them. And Kamala cannot charge anybody. She cannot, because she's not the DPP. But rest assured, when we get back there and Anand Ram Logan becomes the Attorney General, we know he's not going to sit still. He was not sitting still when he was there, because just before he left office, he was going to open back that Lake Asphalt case against Marlene McDonald. Now, she's not around again, but there were other players in it.
Yes, and of course that will be from the civil perspective, which is the domain of the Attorney General, whosoever he or she may be in any administration. But certainly there are criminal accountability and or investigation that must also be pursued. The least of which is how you came about mashing up the mainstay of our economy. I'm talking about Petrotrin.
And I hope, and I know because they said it, they are going to do a forensic investigation at the Balisay house.
Well, yeah, clearly, that goes without saying.
If the DPP feel that he's going to sit down there for the rest of his life and don't do anything about PNM corruption, he lied. Because we still waited on Landate. We still waited on Karen Nunes Teixeira and that insider trading. We are still waiting on Camille Robinson Reggie's handbag money, because it was proven that she did not withdraw any money from the bank. We are still waiting on Foster Cummins, 14 million in venture capital, and the land grabbing issues. There are a lot of things. Faris with the 2 cars, and of course the witness tampering. There are a lot of things that we're waiting for.
And of course,
and we will get our satisfaction.
Just in case the sycophants are feeling pain, agony, and of course they're in a state of depression, let me increase your depression. Because I'm sure, and I'm posing this question to all of you sycophants and PNM sympathizers and spokespersons. Tell me, use your God-given common sense and tell me, having regard to where Rowley came from, nobody knows him as any guru in the area of economic advancement and commercial and business acumen. Nobody knows him. He was a lowly and simple lecturer, getting paid as such. But that's not the issue. Issue for me is, he made a statement in 2015 that the PNM was bankrupt, owing over $6 million to a variety of entities, including, of course, the media houses and a particular bank. He said that. How come 9 years later, he is building now a monstrosity of steel, brick, mortar, and now glass on Balisay grounds of over $100 million and counted.
Right.
You put that in the pipe and smoke it.
Corruption?
Yes, you put that and tell me. You see, that's why they don't have any functions inside even the renovated old office block that they would have firstly renovated. They hardly have any meetings there because they know it's blood money. Blood money. That is what that is. Blood money. The ordinary people and the blood that are shedding on a daily basis as a consequence of crime and murders and so on. All of these people, the bodies that dropped during COVID, over 500, and we can go on. And now we have, of course, dengue. We have dengue. We have COVID. Boy, oh boy. Yeah. They have some serious bloody hands, and we are going to make certain.
And we know Mrs. Masad Bissessa is not going to forget any. You hear?
Blue lights and silver bracelets are with them.
That's right.
Yes, indeed.
They're going to get it.
Yes.
And LENNOX, and I know they're going to strengthen the Integrity Commission to deal with that aspect of what it is he did. He lied.
That's right.
He deliberately lied on that phone.
Yes, whether it be Ionis Gate, whether it's Landate, now given a different name, and of course resources again taken from the Prime Minister's residence. He say he renovate and taken to the new project that of course is a multi-story, but of course a family dwelling that he and Imbert brought it to the parliament in order to get a 25-year moratorium from taxes. Yes. We know, Dr. Rowley, and of course you sycophants, you're going to get sick and sicker and more sick You better drum this
Exactly.
ship. Drum that ship.
So he
That
could-
ship is sinking, and it is devious, and it is a ghost ship at this point in time. And you may well get
Lennox,
caught up. Yeah.
So he could jump high, he could jump low.
Yes, indeed.
He could support Maduro, he can't support Maduro. And now I'm hearing Maduro has a bounty on the opposition leader's head, right? Let him continue, and that is the kind of thing that Rowley supports.
Yeah, of course,
Right?
of course,
He could
of
do
course.
what he wants. He going to meet the same fate as him. And I want to remind them, you see how Saddam Hussein was brought down? You see how he was brought down? That in store for everybody
Statues
who feel
and all,
that they can
statues
do
and
their
all,
citizens what they
statues
want.
and all are being pulled down
They
in
will
Venezuela.
fall from grace.
Yes, the statues are being pulled down in Venezuela of effigies
Yeah.
of Maduro, as was the case with Saddam Hussein. That is when
Saddam
our
Hussein.
people have gotten fed up
Lennox.
and has reached the
Yeah.
zenith, the apex of their tolerance with this kind of evil and treachery and exploitation and corruption.
But Lennox, before I leave, I
Go
must
ahead.
remind you
Yes.
to play that video that I sent for you, what the lady said.
Okay.
Play that video.
I will. I certainly
Very
will.
interesting.
I certainly will. I certainly
Thanks a lot,
Yes,
Lennox.
let me
and take
complete
care
the
and have a
corruption.
good night.
People, of course, that was our external correspondent, our external contributor to the corridor transformation. So if you have a difficulty with the length of time, well, we had to engage as we, of course, revive or resurface, if you want to call it that, and with a higher degree of consistency. And therefore, she will be playing an increasing role in terms of making certain, as I remain behind the scenes, and whether I'm in front of the camera, that type of conversation will certainly be engaged nightly, or put another way, once she is up to it, I will accommodate on the corridor transformation. Rest assured. But let's complete that video of the corruption confession by, of course, none other than the corruption promoter and the mafia don of this criminal enterprise called the PNM. But let's go to another caller before we go back to that video. A pleasant good night. Welcome. Yes.
Yeah, good night.
Good night. Yes. Good night.
Lennox, listen.
Yeah.
You think I mean, I just looking at the Tower of Babel that you was just showing there.
Yes.
Right? With we local Nemrod.
Yes.
Right?
I know it will get
But here what happening now? You think the possibility exists that Rowley will try to pull a stunt like what Maduro did in Venezuela here?
Yes, and it is within his capacity. He has that propensity, I have no doubt. But I also know that he's a blasted coward. So what he will do when water more than flour, I have no doubt in my mind either that Dylan's presence amorphously, inexplicably, to being our representative in Venezuela is to, of course, prepare for asylum possibility.
Because Rowland, them have to get locked up,
Of
Because
course.
them are real questions to answer,
Yes.
The kind of questions them are to answer. It is no way them first can escape that, So I would not be surprised if he will create some kind of distraction.
Yes, of course he will. But all of that, as we saw in Tobago, did nothing to deter
but
the
look at
people.
the man mash up the seabirds, he mash up Tobago, all kind of
Saying
thing.
that. And people must take that. And he is the first prime minister, the first leader I see, telling you, imposing ache, pain, agony, mismanagement, deterioration of your circumstance, your quality of life and standard of living, and then tell you it's the best thing since sliced bread, is a good thing, the PNM, and he are in charge of Trinidad and Tobago's affair. You see this man mad?
Boy, Mr. Enough, I like the video show where you talk about corruption. But they will laugh. But anyway, have a blessed night, my brother. God bless.
Same to you, my friend. I trust that you have a wonderful night tonight. Now that we are back on
Yes,
TV.
go report about God.
Yes, man. All right. Yes, indeed. Yes, people, we cannot countenance, we cannot accept that level of not just bigotry, not not only debauchery, because they're drunk, they stink, they're dirty, they're awful, they're evil, they're diabolical, they're Luciferian, and then putting on shirt and tie with clean jacket and telling us that they have done nothing wrong. But we are feeling the pain, ache, and agony across the board. And our young people continue, of course, to stray, and giving the rest of us lessons in what I consider to be havoc, danger, and destruction brought on by the arch destroyers within the PNM. Yes, indeed, people, of course. Don't forget that the lines are still open. I have conceded to the callers. Yes, indeed, the callers' request. We may well end up at 10 o'clock, but at the same time, I want to tell you as well, those of you who are there and minded, don't forget we have the book drive on, our annual exercise in humanitarian gestures. Yes, we are altruists. We are our brother's keeper, and we have quite a lot of book lists. Of course, I want to thank, of course, the Mohammed bookstore owner. There are several of them, but the one in Sawan, I thank him for his contribution to settling or to fulfilling some of the book lists that we would have at our disposal, having been deposited with us from very indigent parents who are excited to get their children in school. And we do not want a situation, frankly, where a mother has to go and steal or attempt to steal books, expensive as they are, in order to give their children or their charges a chance, or to avoid the embarrassment that the child will have to go to school and endure because they simply do not have the wherewithal. Endure from their peers and endure from their teachers, who may of necessity have to ask, where are your textbooks? Why it is that you're not coming to school with the right socks or shoes or sneakers, as the case may be. That by itself is a psychological blow to a young, very, what I consider to be susceptible mind. Yes, in their formative years, where they are formulating not only their thoughts, but what they would like to be, what they want to do. So therefore, they are forming character and personality. And if we do not, or we continue like this government, to not provide the wherewithal for them to adapt, adjust, and make the right choices, then the 6s and the 7s and the 8s and the 9s will continue to wreak havoc in Trinidad and Tobago. This is not attempting to in any way scare people, but it is about reality. Yes, indeed. Let's go to the lines. Pleasant good night. Welcome. Pleasant good night. Welcome.
Good night to the Honorable Doctor. How are you?
All right. Doing what I love to do, and it appears that I am ordained so to do. Yes, go ahead.
I had given up my box and things, so I now get back a new one, so I now back on the program.
Great.
All right. The man talking about corruption. Right?
Yeah.
He just think about what he did saying?
No, he doesn't. He says that because he believes the audience want to hear it.
For over 30 years.
Yeah.
Federation was never a problem with the Treasury. Never a problem. All right? One shipment of alkylate is to pay Petrotrin for 3 months. Right? 3 months. And imagine 1 year, that like 36 months of payment for the petrolation workers. Huh?
Yes, I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you loud and clear.
Yeah. So when this fella talk about petrolation, this fella has to be mad. Right? Never had a problem there.
Yes.
But you see this dum-dum and them and this 12,000 barrel of oil and all this kind of stuff. When you get catch with that was one of the excuses to shut it down.
yeah. We know they're shameless. Shameless. Come and tell me vindicate. Vindicate my foot.
Build plant and it blow up. It even start and one sinking. One started to sink. Right?
Yeah.
Then you have this dum-dum who lost 30 cases in the court from Attorney General. Right? Because when Oliveri gave them the order to do, that's how she ended up, she lost and she won. Right?
Yes.
So what you have to do, you see, tomorrow morning on the ground report, play back the same file.
Yes.
Go stop playing them. Right? Let the people and them listen again. Right? So they can know. Play it in the head every day, every morning. As Andy come on, it'll be on as before Andy come on.
Yes, man.
Right? And let him play it. Right? To re-educate the population of Trinidad and Tobago. All of them who say they're paying them till they're dead. Now, I ain't going to say I hope they're dead because God could cough me in my mouth.
I hear you.
So my brother going to leave this here and wait on him until in the morning to get a police to come listen to the program again.
Yes, my friend. Yes, my friend.
Right.
Yes, my friend. Again. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that intervention. People, yes, indeed. Of course, don't forget, people, I want to thank those who have already contributed at this point in time to our annual, let's say, back to school for September. I mean, I explained that already. Most students are going to school in their respective schools for the first time, whether it be kindergarten, whether it be at the level of the primary school or the level of secondary. As one group leaves, another group comes in. The point is that we have a difficulty with those who have left. Some 13,000 of them would have left school. Is 18 in all, but I gave the difference to persons who may be repeating or who may want to go on to university, as the case may be. But we have a very substantial grouping that is looking for work. Have to wait. But there are plenty of temptations out there. Plenty of temptations. And that is exacerbated and proliferated by the existence of those who came out of school last year. The 13,000 and the 13,000 before that and the 13,000 before that and the 13,000 before that, and Rowley and they looking for jobs, opportunity, claiming, according to them, Ministry of Youth and so on, and then of course providing 20 and 200. I have not heard them speak beyond 200 persons to get an employment opportunity, whether temporary or otherwise. These people are simply toxic. Their toxicity knows no level, and they will use that to mamagai us through the unsuspecting, or should I say willing to accommodate traditional media to make it look as though they are doing well. We have a job to wipe the yampy out of our own eyes and those of others, and let them know that we know their chicanery, their trickery in trying to hoodwink, deceive, and gaslight the population. And blue lights and silver bracelets are inevitable for what they have done to us. A mafia set of the son of a guns.
My brothers and sisters, we have information where Paria bought fuel from an Italian company, gasoline 95 at a higher price, while they sold that same premium gasoline to a company led by a chap who is a close associate with the president of Venezuela. So whilst they cannot subsidize us, they are able to subsidize this close friend of President Maduro in Venezuela.
This country has a corruption problem. This country has a corruption problem.
In 2020, we imported 2.4 billion liters of fuel products into our country. We consumed and used just about 1.08 billion liters. You know, we re-exported 1.15 billion liters. And we asked the question, to whom did we export these liters of fuel to? In 2021, same 2.4 billion liters we imported, utilized 1.08 billion liters for local domestic consumption, re-exported 1.15 billion liters. To whom and at what price? We don't know, brothers and sisters. So what is happening is that Rowley and the PNM using barrier fuel to import liters and billion liters of fuel products and have those products re-exported, and we don't know to whom.
This country has a corruption problem.
Our democracy in this country is in trouble, is under threat. The Prime Minister poses a clear and present danger to our rights, to our freedoms, to our values, to our culture, to our principles.
This country has a corruption problem.
One of their own, a fella called Selwyn Kojo. He is an Express columnist. He too is concerned about the state of our democracy and the anti-democratic tendencies of this Prime Minister, Dr. Christopher Rowley.
This country has a corruption problem. This country has a corruption problem.
What Dr. Kojo warned us about in yesterday's Express. He said, and this came from an author he was quoted from, I want to quote that statement: democracy is not static, nor entrenched in stone. It must be fought for tooth and nail. The time has come, brothers and sisters, for us to rise up in defense of our freedom, in defense of our rights, in defense of our democracy, in defense of our country. We have to rally to save our democracy. Dr. Kojo described Keith Christopher Rowley as a modern-day king in our country.
This country has a corruption problem.
He is like an administrative monarchy in our land. And brothers and sisters, he behaved like a king. He says, as Louis XIV said in France, I am the state, and the state is me. So everything must be done in my interest and in my welfare. Brothers and sisters, democracy can disappear if we do not work in defense of that democracy. We must defend our democracy in the interest of our people. Let us unite Let us stand together. Let us move forward as one people, one nation, with one common purpose and objective to save our country from this dangerous, demonic, satanic, evil, and dark individual, not only in complexion, but his heart is enveloped in total darkness. The man is evil. He's undemocratic. He does not believe in democracy. He does not cherish our democratic values. He does not defend our principles. Keith Rowley is an autocrat. Keith Rowley is an authoritarian. Keith Rowley is a totalitarian. We must fight tooth and nail to get rid of Keith Christopher Rowley from our country.
This country has a corruption problem. This country has a corruption problem. As long as we stay together, we will survive together. And we agree not to breach the code of secrecy. The code of secrecy as a brotherhood of wrongdoers. As a brotherhood of wrongdoers. The code of secrecy.
Yes, people, of course, we have come to the end of that piece. I think you have gotten a comprehensive idea as to who and what the PNM has morphed into, has metamorphosized into, has evolved into. It is satanic, it is evil, it is wicked, and therefore the original ethos, the original purpose for that particular entity as a political vehicle for transformation and for addressing the issues of Trinidad and Tobago has now collapsed. And people, of course, and if that was not enough, let me just, of course, conclude with, of course, the information coming out of the OAS meeting when Trinidad and Tobago deliberately, because we have not been told, so you must be told, deliberately did not attend the OAS meeting to address what? To address the issue in Venezuela. And let me say up front, the issue and why we must pay attention is because of the possibility of the situation getting worse, with more Venezuelans coming here, running and escaping oppression, and of course the barbaric attitude and the evil conduct of the Maduro regime under an electoral process that clearly shows that he's fighting for his life, because the opposition, the collective opposition, say no. The opposition got 70% according to their own tally, and recognized by the United States because they have thrown their support behind, of course, the opposition leader there, who was the opposition leader when the elections campaign started. Recognize them, recognize him and them, and decry Maduro as he tries to manipulate, as we have seen Rowley do when he went and intercept that shortlist and try, and of course not tried but inveigle, encourage, deceive, render them ingratiating to him. Yes, talking about, of course, the former head of the Police Service Commission. Rowley insert himself there, and in the office of the president at the time, Paula May Weeks, as he did, of course, with the EBC in 2015, and as he did with respect to 2020 elections when he pretended that he didn't know Ms. Nasser's scope. And then, of course, orchestrated the non-presence of independent observers, as Maduro attempted to do in totality. But he got, of course, the Carter Foundation. They got themselves in and said in no uncertain terms that the nature, standard, and execution of that election in Venezuela lacks the democratic principles that is associated for and with the execution of an election in any country. In other words, the electoral process was undermined, as Rowley attempted to do when he, of course, went with his slim majority in the parliament, only 22 seats, the opposition having 19 or 41 seats, and, of course, postponed the local government elections. It was the Privy Council who said that it was dastard of you, it was unbecoming, it is dictatorial to try to usurp the right of the people to determine at the appropriate time their leaders through the electoral process by you usurping and postponing with your slim majority, utilizing or abusing the parliament. That's what transpired. That's what transpired. Dr. Rowley is on record in the courts of having interfered by communicating with the chairman of the EBC to extend the time in the 2015 elections. That's not waste time. And then his evil ways and his undemocratic principles, and of course in an attempt to get an unfair advantage from the elect in some sham or some superficial, but knowing full well that he has orchestrated and expect to have an unfair victory. He went to the parliament again and increased the number of seats in the Tobago House of Assembly by 3. And like Maduro expected the EBC to execute his undemocratic agenda. And so they did by, of course, utilizing electoral districts or seats in Tobago and carving the additional 3 seats. Rowley hoping that he could rule at least by 1. That is the kind of man. He must not be able to rule by anything at all. All must be taken from him, as we saw what transpired in Tobago. And incidentally, he is supposed to be a son of the soil, the Tobago soil. And look what he did to Tobago in terms of their we started with that, in terms of their sea bridge, in terms of their economy, in terms of the damage to his fellow men directly. You think he cares about Trinidad? You think that he has some compassion? And you sycophants, if you feel that the little CPEP now and then, and the reduction, of course, in the minimum wage in these entities, having superficially and publicly and for public relations purposes, and to pretend that somehow he is amenable and he is concerned. But you talk to any CPAP worker, talk to any European worker, and they will tell you what they are doing right now as we speak. But let's go, of course, to what I've put together through AI, of course, artificial intelligence, the situation that emerged out of the OAS. Let's go there immediately, and you have a final bite at this poison called the PNM and Rowley.
The Organization of American States, OAS, Permanent Council, was 1 vote short Wednesday of passing a resolution to demand that Venezuelan electoral authorities publish the minutes of each voting table, which would prove there was no fraud last Sunday, when the incumbent Nicolas Maduro had been lawfully chosen for the 2025 to 2031 term. The initiative, put forward by the United States, Argentina, Paraguay, Chile, and Uruguay, failed to reach the minimum of 18 endorsements, with a final tally of 17 votes in favor, none against, 11 abstentions, and 5 absences. The proposed text would have urged Venezuela's National Electoral Council (CNE) to immediately publish the results of the vote at each polling station. In addition to a comprehensive verification of the results be carried out in the presence of independent observation organizations to guarantee the transparency, credibility, and legitimacy of the results. The draft resolution also mentioned that it is an absolute priority to safeguard fundamental human rights in Venezuela, especially the right of citizens to demonstrate peacefully without reprisals, while stressing the importance of protecting and preserving all equipment used in the electoral process. The projected document also expressed the OAS solidarity with the Venezuelan people and asked Maduro's regime to guarantee the security of diplomatic facilities and personnel residing in Venezuelan territory, including those requesting asylum in such facilities. Those voting in favor were Argentina, Canada, Chile, Costa Rica, Dominican Republic, Ecuador, El Salvador, Guatemala, Guyana, Haiti, Jamaica, Panama, Paraguay, Peru, Suriname, United States, and Uruguay. Abstentions: Antigua and Barbuda, Bahamas, Barbados, Belize, Bolivia, Brazil, Colombia, Grenada, Honduras, St. Kitts and Nevis, and St. Lucia. Not participating in Wednesday's session were Dominica, Mexico, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes, people of Trinidad and Tobago did not participate. You heard it from the horse's mouth. Yes, indeed. And so we conclude. We conclude tonight's exercise. You well fed with the knowledge of certainty of being able to respond appropriately.
The Organization of American States OAS Permanent Council was one vote short Wednesday
have a wonderful rest of the night
to demand that Venezuelan electoral authorities publish the minutes of each voting table, which would prove there was no fraud last Sunday when the incumbent Nicolas Maduro.
This is massive cosign, and I'm giving you an account. Rowley man account, Rowley man account, Rowley man account, Rowley man account. Hey! Rowley mother working harder in the sun and rain. If you see this woman, she is nearly done, but the hard work she doing, everything for she son. All the Piper Stephen and doing what they want, forcing Rowley mother to take an account. All the pepper on the tree, Rowley mother count. All the bygone and the body, Rowley mother count. The plantain, the cucumber, Rowley mother count. The pumpkin, the sapoka, Rowley mother count. Even all the okra that turn every month, Rowley mother, Rowley mother, Rowley mother count. Tell Rowley she don't know what to do, but what she really didn't know, he was thieving too. The boy had been thieving since he was very small, involved in corruption.
Yes, people, of course, we have come to the end of tonight's exercise. Don't forget, tomorrow morning, Andy, Mikey, and myself will do it for you under the ground report from 6 to 9. And, of course, all of the other associated issues that are critical for your own edification and the development and the action will, of course, be disclosed. We will be back, of course, tomorrow night in the same vein as we, of course, continue to expose and to, of course, edify and educate. See you then. Have a wonderful rest of the night. God bless.
Grapefruit, lime and orange for you to make your juice. A hard-working woman, working day and night, but them champions only beefing. As she out she liked, so she went up in Tobago, up in Lake Edo, for Obia to see who beefing hototo.